off to the east, and as it does so, it does bring in a slight change in our wind direction, more south to southeasterly flow. So we'll see more cloud push into parts of East Anglia, Sussex and Kent. This may produce some showers, also some showers possible across Yorkshire and Lincolnshire. But elsewhere, mostly dry, plenty of clear skies, so it's likely we'll see some mist and fog once again during the morning, also some isolated rural frost, but most towns and cities remaining in the mid to high single figures. Now, to start the day across Scotland, yes, it will be mostly dry, but it's going to be fairly gusty, particularly around western coasts, a chance of some coastal gales here. So it's unlikely to see any mist or fog during the morning, so a mostly bright but breezy start, and fairly similar across Northern Ireland too. But across the rest of England and Wales, once again, it could be fairly chilly, some mist and fog, particularly around any valleys. Not feeling quite as cold, though, across parts of the southeast, more cloud here. And as we progress through the course of the day, this cloud will spread its way further inland. So it's likely that sunshine will turn more hazy in nature, and once again this cloud could be thick enough to produce the odd isolated shower. But for most it should be another dry day, the best of the brightness across parts of the west, and not feeling quite as warm as it did this afternoon, highs reaching around 16 to 17 degrees Celsius in the southeast. Now, as we head into Saturday, we'll start to see this change. This frontal system pushing in from the west, at times bringing some quite persistent and heavy outbreaks of rain, at first into Northern Ireland and then pushing its way eastwards into western Scotland, western parts of England and Wales, where it could linger through much of the day. But most of the east should be mostly dry and bright, and then it looks like turning brighter as we head into next week. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Starting in Manchester, the M56 eastbound at junction 3A continues to experience disruptions due to a collision with all lanes closed. In Northamptonshire, a vehicle fire has closed all lanes on the A14 westbound between junction 22 and junction 13 at Thrapston. In Bedfordshire, the M1 northbound is restricted to one lane between junction 12 and junction 13 following an accident. Meanwhile, in Hampshire, a collision on the M27 westbound exit slip at junction 8 has resulted in a lane closure. And on the trains, passengers on the East Midlands Railway should anticipate delays between Loughborough and Leicester. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Burnham Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. Well, he's gone and done it. Yes, Starmer is going to announce digital ID for all. Apparently, it'll stop illegal immigration. I'm sceptical. We'll debate all of that. Boris Johnson comes out and defends what I define as the Boris wave. But tonight we'll show you the figures for how many came and how many are actually working. I think many of you at home will be shocked. And Andy Burnham comes out with a big interview in the Telegraph, and he's moving considerably to the left of Keir Starmer. What does all this mean for the upcoming Labour conference? That and much more, but first, let's get the news with Katie Bowen.
Nigel, thank you and good evening. The headlines at 7 o'clock. GB News sources understand that every adult in Britain will require a new government-issued digital ID card under plans to be set out by Sir Keir Starmer. The Prime Minister was expected to announce the move in a bid to tackle illegal immigration. It's understood Sir Keir Starmer will outline the details in a speech tomorrow. Plans for what's being called a Brit card will be subject to consultation and will require legislation. Under the proposal, anyone starting a new job would be required to show the digital ID, which would then be automatically checked against a database of those who are entitled to live and work in the UK. The leader of the Conservatives, Kemi Badenoch, has branded the move a desperate gimmick to stop the small boats, while the Liberal Democrats say that they cannot support a mandatory digital ID. Elsewhere, the Home Office has confirmed 7 migrants have now been flown to France under the partial returns deal after a Sudanese national was returned today. The latest deportations also included an Afghan and a Somali national, following returns last week of people from Iran, Eritrea, India and Afghanistan. The pilot scheme, agreed with France in July, allows small boat arrivals to be detained and sent back across the Channel in exchange for the same number approved through safe and legal routes. The first arrivals under the deal, a family of 3 with a young child, landed in Britain yesterday. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has insisted he will lead from the front into the next general election amid speculation about the future of his premiership. His comments to regional broadcasters come as Andy Burnham says Labour MPs have urged him to challenge Sir Keir Starmer for the party leadership. The Prime Minister has dismissed what he calls the personal ambitions of the Greater Manchester Mayor. Mr Burnham, meanwhile, says he's ready to play any role as Labour faces what he calls an existential threat. In further interviews today, Sir Keir Starmer has said Donald Trump's claim that London wants to go to Sharia law is ridiculous nonsense, adding that he will, quote, call out the president over his comments when he next sees him. The taxi driver who dropped off the Southport killer at the dance class where he murdered 3 children has told a public inquiry he regrets not calling the police sooner. Driver Gary Poland did not call emergency services until 50 minutes after hearing screams at the heart space. Giving evidence to the Southport inquiry today, Mr Poland said he threatened to call police when Rudder ignored his request to pay, but thought he'd gone to get money from the building where the Taylor Swift-themed dance class was being held. He added that he thought there was a gunman and that he could be a target. Rudder murdered Elsie Stancombe, BB King and Alice De Silva Aguiar and attempted to murder 10 others in the attack in July last year. And former French President Nicolas Sarkozy has been sentenced to 5 years in jail for criminal conspiracy over millions in illicit funds from Libya's Gaddafi. The Paris court cleared him of corruption and illegal campaign financing, but said he let aides seek financial support for his 2007 campaign. The 70-year-old insists the case is politically motivated, but the ruling means he faces prison even if he appeals. He was also fined €100,000. Those are your latest GB News headlines. Let's go back to Nigel.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
We have not had ID cards in this country for over 70 years. We had them briefly during wartime Britain, but in the end it was decided they weren't doing any good at all and we got rid of them. But they're to come back, but now in a digital form. And of course the high priest for all of this for the last quarter of a century has been Tony Blair. Here he was just recently reiterating the call.
The benefits are clear. Digital ID will make our interactions with each other and with the state faster, cheaper, and more reliable. It will allow us to judge who has a right to be in our country and who doesn't, and so solves one of the major challenges of immigration.
The benefits are clear. The state can control every single aspect of your life. They can know where you are at any given moment in time. They can see what money goes in and out of your accounts. They can decide, oh, no. You can't go to Marbella. You've used up your carbon credit for the year. Now, you might say I'm exaggerating, but these are the endless possibilities that could happen with digital ID. And frankly, for me, I saw enough during the pandemic with vaccine passports. It created a two-tier society of those who could go to places, those who could travel, all based on the fact that unless you were vaxxed, you see, unless you were vaxxed, you were a danger because you might pass the virus on to somebody else. Then we learned that simply wasn't true, and yet our freedoms have been taken away for that period of time in a way that had never happened before. I am personally, vehemently opposed to this in every single way, let alone the abuse that could happen if any of these sites are hacked and your data is taken. So I am deadly against. We will have a proper debate with our channel on this subject. But hey, we're told it'll stop illegal immigration. It'll stop people crossing the channel. It'll stop people working in the illegal economy. I, for my own side, don't believe a word of it. Love your views. Are you in favour? You at home? You, the viewers, the listeners, let me know. Tweet, hashtag Farage on GB News, or email farage@gbnews.com. I'm going to begin with somebody who I think is going to be on my side, I suspect. Down the line joining me is Silkie Carlo, director of Big Brother Watch. Silkie, we've been expecting this for some time, haven't we?
Yes, unfortunately, Blair's vision for a dystopian surveillance state where we all carry ID cards and, as you say, everything we do can be tracked and logged by the state and controlled, and we need a digital pass to go about our daily lives. This idea is reinvented every few years, and of course Starmer has been very Blairite in his premiership, and now with no mandate whatsoever, nobody voted for this. This was not in the manifesto. He is proposing to introduce it to stop small boats, which, as you said, is absolutely ludicrous. I don't think there's, it's basically an IQ test, the idea that a digital ID will stop rubber dinghies coming across the channel. But what this will do is create the infrastructure of a massive surveillance state that will inevitably sprawl into many areas of life. You would have to be very naive to think that this will stop with citizenship. It will sprawl into benefits, health. Let's not forget that Starmer was in favour of mandatory vaccine IDs, as you said, and also his government has been in favour of identity requirements for the internet and for social media, and there's a war against people being able to go online anonymously. So we could end up with an identity system in Britain that is wholly un-British, that is required for us to do anything from go to the doctors to log on to a Facebook or social media account. And I think it's actually ludicrous that Starmer is apparently going to introduce this in a speech about patriotism. I don't think he understands British values. I just don't think it's in his bones, because this is completely un-British.
But Silkie, look, I'm with you on this debate, but the Labour government have a massive majority. Can it be stopped?
Yeah, it can. And it can by all of us just simply saying no. I honestly think it's that simple. Of course, Big Brother Watch will fight this tooth and nail, and will do that in Parliament. But as you say, the numbers in Parliament make this really difficult, even though it is totally undemocratic. This wasn't in the manifesto. But at the end of the day, when you've got a massive chunk of the population, about half of us, who don't want to have a mandatory digital ID system, you simply can't impose one. And it's going to take millions of us to simply say no.
I know, but when it comes to protests, some do, but it doesn't normally come to the millions. Silkie, thank you very much indeed. Well, a couple of views there against. I'm joined in the studio by Sir Michael Ellis, former Conservative Attorney-General, and Sean Woodward, former Labour Cabinet Minister. Sean, I think you feel differently on this issue?
Yeah, I do. And first of all, look, I think it's really important we listen to people like Silkie and yourself, and I know that you're genuinely concerned about the infringement of our liberty. But, of course, we've already infringed that in so many ways. Anybody who's got a mobile phone, for example, could compromise their liberty. People know where you are. Think about how many passwords you've got on it. Think about how poorly protected you are in terms of the information you give, with pretty poor password protection, that constantly you get those messages on your phone telling you that your data has been linked, your identity has been compromised.
But that's private companies, not government.
It is, and one of the big concerns I've got is that the private companies are not very good at this. In addition, you've got a passport or you've got a driving licence. We've already got many ways out there.
So why do we need more?
We've given... Because what we'd actually do now is coordinate it. One of the most important things that we need to do with all of this is coordinate this information. And I think, to be fair to Keir, you can throw it up with him saying, oh, somehow this is going to stop the boats. He's not saying that.
But he is.
I know. The ID card alone, no, it will contribute to helping it. And what Blair said at the Institute speech that he made when Tony was first talking about this was that what matters here is actually making it one of the pull factors at the moment. You think you can get to Britain, you think you can come here, you can somehow cheat the system, cheat the welfare system. You haven't got to prove who you are. You can get a job, you haven't got to prove who you are again. With the ID card, you would have to prove your access for a benefit, for access to the health service.
Hang on, so are you saying that illegal immigrants should be given an ID card?
Well, the illegal immigrants wouldn't be given an ID card.
So how does it stop illegal immigration?
Well, because in order to actually get access to the benefits, you would have to have one. And if you don't get one because you're here illegally, you wouldn't have one.
Look, I can see the arguments that you bring all these different bits of data together. There is an argument for efficiency. I understand the rationale and logic of the argument. Blair made it, you've just made it. I get that. But Starmer is selling this, or at least we believe he'll sell it, as a means of stopping illegal working.
I think he's going to sell it as a way of helping do that. I mean, what we've seen, and I'm sure people at home now are sitting there thinking, is it a good idea or is it a bad idea?
They are.
And quite rightly, they should be having that debate. But what we're learning about immigration and illegal migration, we think of what you announced earlier this week, for example, and the problems immediately that appeared with that announcement and actually making it happen. It's not going to be a magic bullet on any one thing. We're going to have to approach this by a whole range of different methods. And I think one of the methods that we're missing in
So this is not the silver bullet?
No, this is not the only bullet that's going to deal with it. I think it could help a lot, and I think it could deter quite a lot of people. But it alone isn't going to do it.
Do you see my concern, though, when I sort of half joked? You try and book a flight to Marbella, but you're told you've used your carbon credit. This could be used in all sorts of ways.
It could be. But I think, as you and I might discuss another time, should reform, for example, form the next government in this country, would it be the first thing that you would repeal as the Prime Minister of the country? And I suspect probably not.
There's so much to repeal, I don't know the answer to that.
It's not going to work, Nigel.
It's not going to work. Why is it not going to work?
Look, I'll tell you what. First of all, this is intrusive. It's intrusive on democratic values. Second of all, it isn't going to work. We know why it's intrusive, because eventually, like everything else, there will be mission creep. And this card will be used. It may take 5, 10 years, 15 years, but eventually the card will be used to stop people from doing things that at the moment they have the right to do. That's inevitable, because we see that in everything government does. Just encroaching on liberties and a mission creep into other areas.
I mean, the state has got bigger and bigger.
Of course it has. Hugely bigger than it was the last time in the 1950s that we had ID cards. But it won't work because, look, I was a barrister in criminal practice for many years. If a person is driving their car and you put 10 speed cameras along the road and that person has to worry about doing 35 miles an hour and a 30-mile-an-hour limit, the law-abiding person is affected by that speed camera.
I know. I agree.
If you've stolen the car, you don't have to worry about getting however many speeding tickets, and you don't have to worry about whether you're insured or not, or dangerous driving, because unless there are enough police around to arrest you, you can do it with impunity. In other words, what I'm saying is, first of all, if Tony Blair thinks it's a good idea, I think most people should assume it's a bad one. But let me put it to you more logically.
He was a quite successful politician in his day.
He's a very good politician. I don't deny that for a moment.
All right.
But let's put it this way. if you're going to say, is it going to work? It won't work, in my view, because people who want to avoid it will avoid it, and it'll be the law-abiding people who will be affected.
I'm going to put
by
that
it.
point to Sean Woodward. You know, and the speeding analogy is quite good, isn't it? Because we've got the embankment just outside here. If you're doing 24 at 3 o'clock in the morning, you might get, 3 points or even a ban. But if you've nicked the car, it's fine. And is there not a danger that things like this that are brought in to make our lives more safer and more logical, actually, it's only the law-abiding and make a minor misdemeanour who pay the price?
Yeah, well, actually, I recently had experience of those cameras. And it wasn't because I was driving over the number. My car was stolen. And I thought, well, the good thing is there are all these cameras everywhere. They'll be able to find my car. Cameras can only be used to catch you for speeding. When it actually comes to trying to find your car, nobody can actually find it for you because, of course, these cameras that have got automatic number plate recognition, as I know from my time as Secretary of State in Northern Ireland, there were lots of concerns about that in Northern Ireland. But the fact of the matter is we use them for some purposes, but not for others, and I wish we actually did use them
because
to catch
legally
people
we
who
can't.
steal cars.
Because legally we can't.
Well, so I'm all in favour of technology. I'm in favour of technology being used in a way that helps us. And I think, look, Michael, I'm listening to you very carefully. If we didn't have any technology out there at the moment capturing your identity, I think your arguments would be very, very good. But we already do. The question is, it's a complete mishmash.
That's part of the problem, Sean, because we already have law-abiding people already have a passport, a driving licence, a birth certificate, and all the rest of it. So it's already possible to identify law-abiding people. This is going to be another encroachment by the state. I think it is dystopian. I agree with Big Brother Watch. The reality is that this is going to be intrusive on democratic values. Maybe not immediately, but it will be over the course of years because it's inevitable.
But let me ask you that question then. If you were to form the next government, if you were back in Parliament again, would it be top of your agenda to get rid of an identity card that might simplify and save the state a huge amount of money by people being easily able to prove who they are? Would you get rid of it, yes or no?
I would get rid of it. And the reason,
so you would put it at the top
by the
of your
way,
agenda.
I think it would cost the state money because all of these projects
What if it doesn't?
It would cost the state. It would. It would cost the
What
state
if it
billions, Sean. You'll have a quango in no time at all that's looking after these cards and the distribution of the cards, the colour of the cards, the cost of the cards. You will have an encroachment by the state. I would get rid of it and spend the money on something else.
I tell you what, folks, at home, this debate has only just started, but it's important in a democracy that I give you the view of the leader of His Majesty's opposition, Kemi Badenoch, who says there are arguments for and against digital ID. Well, there you are. Now, I am sitting next to somebody who was part of the last government when the Boris wave happened, and Boris Johnson last night came out firmly in support of the vast numbers of people that came to Britain. In a moment, I'm going to show you how few of them are actually working. I'd be fascinated to see how Michael Ellis defends what he did in government with you, the viewers.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I asked you at home, are you in favour of digital ID? And he says everyone should strenuously reject digital ID. It's a Trojan horse leading to a digital currency and complete state control of the population. Look at China and their social credit scheme for what the regime want here. Just say no. Now, talking of central bank digital currencies, I can tell you this, that I did go with my colleague Richard Tice to go this morning to see the Governor of the Bank of England. And Mr Bailey welcomed us, was very polite to us, listened to what we had to say. I asked him about central bank digital currencies. He made it clear that the bank and the government are pursuing the idea to see whether they think it can work in practicality. He thought it could be very useful in sorting out fraud. My response, which is a political, not a central banking response, was over my dead body. Callum says, fully support the use of ID cards if they operate on the basis that they are correctly validated and can't be created fraudulently. I have one on the continent and they're extremely useful in confirming my identity for a great many transactions, as well as setting up things like phone contracts. Well, yeah, OK, fine. There we go. Now, the Boris wave, which I was talking about earlier this week. Well, last night, Boris Johnson came out to defend his record. He was talking to Harry Cole of the Sun newspaper.
The Boris wave, as they're calling it.
Who are you going to kick out? The Ukrainians? You want to kick out the Ukrainians?
No.
You want to kick out the Hong Kong Chinese?
Well, look, the blue line is...
You want to kick out the nurses? I'm very, very proud of what we did, because we took back... we can have, if we want zero nurses, if we want nobody to come in for social care, if you want, we can have zero, right?
So Boris's version of taking back control was this. Have a look at the raw numbers. There we go. There is the Boris wave, and it's there forever for all to see. Forget illegal immigration. These are people who are legally allowed to come into the country. Nothing like it has ever been seen before in the history of our nation. But then, let's find out what were they all doing. Let's have a look at the breakdown of whether they were working or not. And you will see on the bottom left, the tiniest, minutest graph are people who came to work. The others came for a variety of reasons. And yes, it is true that some came from Ukraine. It is true that some came from Hong Kong. But the vast majority of those that came during the Boris wave have not worked, probably will never work, and will cost the country an absolute fortune. We can argue about the numbers, but that's where we are. Luckily, I'm with Sir Michael Ellis, the former Conservative Attorney General, who will defend absolutely everything that the last Conservative government did.
Hello, Nigel. Look, the reality of the matter is, to be absolutely fair...
I'm teasing you slightly.
Well, Kemi Badenoch has said that, to be absolutely fair, we failed to control the borders as effectively as we should have done.
You didn't fail to control. You opened them up in a way that had never been seen in the history of our nation.
I think that is clearly right. What Boris Johnson has said about Ukraine and Hong Kong, of course, is right.
And I agree with that.
And everyone, I think, or most people would agree with that. But I'm not going to say, and I'm not going to sit here and say that we got everything right, the last Conservative government got everything right. But at least they tried. At least the motivation was there. And that's not the case with the current Labour government, and it's certainly not the case with the Lib Dems.
You know blooming well that the Brexit vote, yes, it was about sovereignty, yes, it was about concerns over the way the European institutions were. We know all of that. But that ultimately it was about reducing numbers coming into Britain. That is why they voted Brexit. That is why Boris got an 80-seat majority.
Well, it was about sovereignty, I think, the Brexit vote, as
Michael,
well as you must
don't bury your
accept.
head in the sand. They were coming out on the council estates in Newcastle.
It was both.
All right.
It was about sovereignty. It was about Europe not telling us about straight bananas.
And border control is part of that.
And border control is part of it. So I think, I accept, but I think it's both of those angles. And I'm not saying the last Tory government got it right on immigration. And I don't think
but Boris
that
is defending it. Boris is defending it.
But
do you defend it?
It's not my job to speak for Boris.
Look,
I mean,
you were there.
Yeah.
Do you defend it?
Well, I've just said that we didn't do enough, so I'm not defending the Tory record on immigration. I'm not going to.
You see, they're in terrible trouble.
But I think, but Nigel, I have to say, the motivation was there to try and get that right. It wasn't an open borders policy, as you see with the current parties at Labour and the Lib Dem system. So I think there is a difference there, and the political capital wasn't available for those previous prime ministers to deliver.
Well,
you've got to have political capital. You've got to have the structures in place to deliver on
Boris gave a damn about immigration as an issue. He was unconcerned. Sean, this issue it really, really damaged. And I think, to be honest with you, I think Boris not even apologising for numbers being way higher than people expected means we'll never see him back in politics again. But Labour have got to think hard on this too, haven't they?
Look, the Prime Minister's been there for a year now, and this problem in most people's eyes has not got much better. The new Home Secretary is trying to actually make this whole policy of one in, one out work much better, but people have only seen a few people move this week. We've got the Prime Minister announcing identity cards tomorrow. That may make a contribution to this. But what's really clear to me is that this is a problem which has affected the whole of the world over the last 10 years. You only got to look at what happened in America, and Donald Trump came in, and it was a major issue in his election. You look at what's happening in Germany, in France. They have lost control of the borders. And as we've been discussing, Nigel, when you were in the European Parliament, you were one of the people who very early on were very worried about what was happening with those boats coming across the Mediterranean. And I think it crept up, and I'm not making an apology for the last Conservative Party, but I am going to say to you that I think this was an issue that most politicians, a few exceptions, really didn't see for its magnitude, the scale of the problem that was going to be visited on everyone.
That's interesting.
And I think that one of the things that I suspect people really feel at home watching this now, as they do any programme about this, is will these damn politicians stop fighting amongst each other, and will they find a way to agree that this is a major problem, that it does need to be dealt with, and that actually, instead of it being the Conservative Party's solution, the Labour Party's solution, the Reform Party's solution, we need a British answer
well, they want people
to the problem.
They want leaders to listen and to act.
And to understand they're genuinely worried. And I think there's a very important distinction to be made between the real compassion of British people for genuine asylum seekers. Nobody wants to send
which has taken advantage
an
of
Afghanistan female judge to certain death. Nobody wants to send back a young gay man to an area of the world where he'll be thrown off the top of a building.
If he genuinely
By the way, the Labour government has just recognised a state where gay people are thrown off tall buildings. But anyway, what I would say about
Michael, forgive me. You see, I think people at home hate what you're doing.
Well, no,
I think they feel the Conservative Party discredited itself.
Sean,
they're worried about the Labour Party.
They are very worried.
What they want is to hear you and I not sitting here rotting each other off, rotting off parties.
But it's a statement of fact.
But actually saying, what are we going to do to listen to people's problems?
I can tell you what I think we have to do, and this applies to all parties, and it would apply to the Reform Party as well, and that is the structural element is not there for either of those two main political parties, or if there's a third one, Nigel, to deliver, because the courts, you're seeing that the Labour Party are being blocked by the courts.
No, I get that.
But, the courts stopped the Rwanda, thing as well.
I think there are barriers to this. What I say to both of you is I think that illegal immigration outrages the country because of the unfairness of it, whether it's social housing lists or whatever it may be, the cost of the hotels. But I think on the legal immigration point, I think a population rise of 10 million in 20 years has impacted on the quality of life of everybody. And we were told, both by Labour and Conservative, well, don't worry, your little heads, because they're all coming into work. And we actually learned through dependents and other routes that at least half of those that come don't work. And I think that, in the end, is what makes people very angry. But I'm with you, Sean. People of these islands are very fair-minded, and amongst the most fair-minded in the world. And government's got to find a way
that's going to apply to all the parties.
No, it will do, but it's not working at the minute. No. In a moment, let's talk about the Labour Party. Let's see what Sean Woolford has to tell us. Is there about to be a massive coup launched at the Labour conference by the King of the North, Andy Burnham?
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heaviest and most thundery rain that's been affecting parts of Central Europe through recent days, that's now starting to ease. But nonetheless, a fair few showers across parts of Greece and nearby countries as we go through Friday. A few showery bursts still across Italy, could still be quite heavy towards the north. Meanwhile, further west across much of Spain and Portugal, it's largely fine, albeit with a few showery bursts pushing towards Madeira and the Canary Islands. Lots of fine weather for most of us through into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Looking ahead, it's set to be another dry day tomorrow, then a change over the weekend. It's likely we'll see some outbreaks of rain push in from the west. That's all due to low pressure moving its way in from the Atlantic as high pressure slips away off to the east. And as it does so, it does bring in a slight change in our wind direction, more south to southeasterly flow. So we'll see more cloud push into parts of East Anglia, Sussex and Kent. This may produce some showers, also some showers possible across Yorkshire and Lincolnshire. But elsewhere, mostly dry, plenty of clear skies. So it's likely we'll see some mist and fog once again during the morning. Also some isolated rural frost, but most towns and cities remaining in the mid to high single figures. Now, to start the day across Scotland, yes, it will be mostly dry, but it's going to be fairly gusty, particularly around western coasts. A chance of some coastal gales here. So it's unlikely to see any mist or fog during the morning, so mostly bright but breezy start, and fairly similar across Northern Ireland too. But across the rest of England and Wales, once again, it could be fairly chilly. Some mist and fog, particularly around any valleys. Not feeling quite as cold, though, across parts of the southeast. More cloud here. And as we progress through the course of the day, this cloud will spread its way further inland. So it's likely that sunshine will turn more hazy in nature, and once again this cloud could be thick enough to produce the odd isolated shower. But for most it should be another dry day, the best of the brightness across parts of the west, and not feeling quite as warm as it did this afternoon, highs reaching around 16 to 17 degrees Celsius in the southeast. Now, as we head into Saturday, we'll start to see this change. This frontal system pushing in from the west, at times bringing some quite persistent and heavy outbreaks of rain. At first into Northern Ireland and then pushing its way eastwards into western Scotland, western parts of England and Wales, where it could linger through much of the day. But most of the east should be mostly dry and bright. And then it looks like turning brighter as we head into next week. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Last night we showed you the front page of this week's New Statesman, a big, bold picture of Andy Burnham. And after we came off air, there was a big interview in The Telegraph, in which Burnham was talking about mass nationalisation of many industries and putting up income tax for the top earners to 50%. It's quite a big move, I thought, to the left for Andy Burnham. But mercifully, on my panel, we have Sean Woodward. Forget the politics for a moment. What's he like as a bloke?
He's a very nice guy. We were in cabinet together. I've known Andy for 20 years. And he went off to become Mayor of Manchester. And he's been a very, very successful and very popular mayor up in Manchester. So this is somebody who, I think, even though he's twice stood for the leadership and not got it, nonetheless, this is a serious person in the Labour Party, in our national politics. And he's a very decent man as well.
OK. And I mean, of course, with the Labour conference coming up, it'll be painted by every commentator as Labour in a state of civil war. But quite difficult for him, isn't it? Because he'd have to give up being Mayor of Manchester. He'd have to win a by-election. It's not straightforward, this, is it?
No, it's not straightforward at all, even if this was actually the right thing to do. And I think the first thing...
Is it the right thing to do?
Well, look, the Prime Minister's been in the job for a year. He got a huge mandate a year ago. He's had a very rough year. He's had a very rough few weeks. He's had the whole problem with the Deputy Prime Minister and Angela Rayner. And then, of course, he's had all the problems around Peter Mandelson that's preoccupied the headlines. But then last week, he pulls out of almost seemingly nowhere, but of course he'd been working on it for a year, the most extraordinary good deal for Britain. And whether you're Labour, Conservative, Reform or whatever, a $150 billion trade deal is a very, very good deal, and we should all be grateful for that.
It's not a trade deal.
He had he had a good week. And so I think it's
I'll give you on the world stage, he's performed well. Yeah. But domestically, he's very, very unpopular in a short space of time.
He is unpopular, but, you know, if you'd had Mrs Thatcher here, she would have been able to talk to you about being unpopular. Tony Blair could talk to you about being unpopular, and both went on to win 2 subsequent general
But they were
elections.
competent. You can be unpopular, but if you're competent, you soon win through. I think, and the reality is, I agree actually with Sean about Andy Burnham. I don't know him as well as Sean does, but what I do know of him, he's a nice guy, and he's also more personable. I think he's a better politician than Keir.
Well, as a communicator.
As a communicator, he comes across well, but to move the Labour Party even further to the left is political madness.
And isn't that the point? What he came out with in that Telegraph interview was quite a big move to the left for Burnham.
Well, what he came out with in that interview is, as you say, Michael, is a story. And his story is, look, we've got a great big black hole to fill, and this is how I would actually deal with filling that particular hole. We can debate whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. What he also said was, I'm here for me to be used by this Prime Minister in whatever capacity he wants. What I hope happens is actually that the Prime Minister remains Prime Minister, leader of the Labour Party.
He doesn't mean
but
that,
he
does he?
uses,
come on.
That he uses
come on,
Andy.
Sean.
And
He
I
wants
think
to be the blooming leader.
Andy's got a big role to play.
Well, I don't know.
I think the Labour Party have some major internal strife.
It's going to be a
noisy conference.
Very interesting conference. Now, the What the Farage moment has to be this. A charming young man crosses the English Channel in a dinghy. He's from Afghanistan. He's granted, of course, asylum. He's granted refugee status because the country from which he hails is so blooming dangerous. Until he goes back there for an 8-week holiday. Look at these pictures on the screen, living the life of Riley back in Afghanistan until he comes home. Are you surprised people are angry?
Well, he's extremely entrepreneurial. I have no idea what this story is about.
No,
Maybe there's some dimension to this we don't know.
But it's true.
I wouldn't criticise him. He's taking advantage of our broken system.
We're the idiots, not
him.
him.
It's a grade A example.
It looks like that, but we should always be conscious of the fact there may be some dimension
there
to the
may
be,
but
we don't
the reality
know.
is,
but
the way it looks at the moment,
it's pretty astonishing.
On the face of it, it's pretty ghastly.
It's a broken system.
Now, in a moment, we're going to talk to Lee Zeldin. He is the administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency in the United States of America. And they're going down the track of drill, baby, drill. I'm going to ask him, is he a climate denier? Is he doing huge damage to the world? Or is what he's doing just plain common sense to the American economy? And if it is, what can we learn?
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
The contrast between America's energy policy and ours could not be greater. Here's Donald Trump saying, drill, baby, drill.
Will drill, baby, drill. And I drill, baby, drill. We're going to drill, baby, drill. And I'm going to drill, baby, drill.
And here he is on our energy policy.
And I hope the Prime Minister is listening, because I told it to him 3 days in a row. That's all he heard. North Sea oil, North Sea, because I want to see them do well. I want to stop seeing them ruining that beautiful Scottish and English countryside with windmills and massive solar panels that go 7 miles by 7 miles, taking away farmland.
Well, Trump believes it very strongly. I'm joined by Lee Zeldin, administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. Lee, welcome to the programme. It's great to have you on. Now, you know, we know where Trump stands on this. The British government taking a very different view. But, I mean, are you, Lee? Come on, tell me. Are you climate deniers?
No, we're very much in touch with the reality. We're applying common sense. We're heeding the economic pain and demands of the American public, the American voter. They want us to be responsive to what they're expecting from President Trump and this administration. The president campaigned on these policies when he was running last year. We need to increase baseload power in this country. We need to unleash energy dominance in the United States. There's a race on artificial intelligence that we want to win. We want to have more investment in the country. There are individuals and companies that are committing trillions of dollars of new investment here in the United States. And there was this direction that America was going down where people in power were seeking, in the name of climate change, to cause economic pain to the people who can least afford it, to put policies in place that were, talking about offshore wind as if that was a substitute for baseload power, which it's not. And the other thing that I would share, and there's so much hypocrisy with where you see people flying their private jets to go to some conference on the other side of the world. They get paid massive sums of money. And then worst is when they get these handouts from government, where because you're a well-connected person with the President Biden, tens of billions of dollars were going out to these left-wing environmentalist NGOs, and regardless of the unqualified recipients and the reduced agency oversight here at EPA, because of self-dealing and conflicts of interest, so much money was getting wasted. So there is so much that motivates the American public to demand this of the Trump EPA, and we're proud to be getting it done for them.
Yeah, I mean, the AI point you made is very, very interesting because, of course, these new technologies need even more energy than the old 19th century manufacturing processes, and I totally get that. Let me ask you a question, though. Do you see a role going on for renewables of any kind at all in America?
I mean, there's a lot of research that's been going on. The problem has been with the economics of it, the cost to be putting offshore wind without talking about the reality of the hundreds of billions of dollars of federal government subsidies being used to prop up wind and solar. They'll talk about the economics of wind without talking about the need to invest in battery storage, and they will ignore any of the risks of the fires with lithium-ion batteries and whatnot. So it's so important to be in touch with the reality. We can continue the research. Innovation's important. And we all want to be good stewards of the environment. In the spirit of protecting the environment, we are choosing to both protect the environment and grow the economy. We should reject the notion that this is a binary choice between the two.
Final question, Lee, if I may. Where is the administration with nuclear power? I noticed that opinion polls in America have shifted quite sharply in favour from against on nuclear power. Where are you on nuclear? And in particular, what's happening with small modular nuclear reactors?
Yeah, this is being ramped up in the United States, Nigel. I just got back from Idaho Falls, Idaho, just a couple days ago, where there was a groundbreaking of another nuclear project, and it's part of a vision where they're implementing these projects in other parts of the country. And it is more economical. It powers so much more. And it's something that I've seen bring together people who might be of different political parties, and that's a good thing. Where more people I've seen on both sides of the aisle talking about nuclear, and I think it's a worthy investment, and the Trump administration has been helping.
Lee Zeldin, fantastic to have you on the programme. Thank you for your great, clear messages. Thank you. It's very interesting. I mean, you can agree or disagree with the Trump administration, the passion that they've got for this stuff, Sean. And, I just can't help feeling, whatever the good intentions, that Ed Miliband's taking us down completely the wrong direction.
Well, look, the key word there was being realistic. America is a huge continent we are a relatively small island. We are surrounded by sea, and wind, whether it's onshore or offshore, is a tremendous source for us, which if you are any of the states in the middle of America, we're in a completely different place altogether. If we look at the amount of energy that was being produced at the last election, for example, from gas, it was around 20%, but from oil, from coal, we're talking in the very low numbers here of 1%. So drill, baby, drill would not actually get us to where we need to be.
Well,
Expanding nuclear
hang on.
does.
We could be self-sufficient in gas. I mean, here's the point.
We won't get to being self-sufficient tomorrow. And what we've got to do here is have a combination. And I think, Nigel, where you and I probably, if we sat down and spent enough time on this, would look at, is that what's needed here is a package to get Britain to be self-sufficient.
Yeah, but back in January, right, we had a couple of big anticyclones. There were a couple of days when at 9 a.m. we were importing 25% of our electricity. And that leaves us very, very vulnerable. I mean, it was interesting. I'm pleased that Lee touched on AI because we're going to need more energy than we've ever had. And at the minute...
Not least for these new data centres.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm going to hand it back over.
Amounts of energy. But think how vulnerable, Nigel, we were when the Ukrainian-Russian war broke out.
Well, exactly.
That wasn't to do with the cyclone.
No.
We've got to get
and that was Germany, of course. Germany, of course. Germany made the biggest mistake.
Important.
But, Michael, your lot did this. Your lot did this.
No, Ed Miliband.
Hang on. Who wrote net zero into law?
Ed Miliband.
Who wrote net zero into law?
Nigel, there's no point deflecting. There's no... Well, me, I was only Attorney General, but I mean, let me put it to you this way. Was it your government that did this or not? Let me put it to you this way, Nigel.
He's
only following orders.
Totally ignoring.
Of course I'm not ignoring.
Yes, you are.
Resisting the temptation. No, look, I mean, I tell you what denier I am. I'm an Ed Miliband denier, because the reality of the matter is we have the resources. And what's happening is that we are asking Norway, for example, to drill, and then we are obtaining those fossil fuels from Norway. So in order to make our stats look good, we're asking another country to drill into our
So Norway sells us
fuels.
oil, Norway sells us gas, and when the wind doesn't blow, we import electricity from Norway.
That's how crazy it is.
And your Prime Minister that you served said he wanted us to become
I know politically you want to blame the Tories.
Listen to me for one moment, all this bluster. The Saudi Arabia of wind. That was what Boris wanted. That was what your government was campaigning for. Do you admit that it was madness?
Well, what I would say is that the wind turbines are 60% manufactured in China.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of the reality is that they make in the world 60% of all of the world's wind turbines, and they are producing more of the carbon pollution than anyone else, including Britain and America. So actually, when we are looking at these and making economic decisions that are going to have an impact on people paying their heating bills, we've got to say, how much are we actually helping the world's pollution problem when China are actually creating most of the pollution?
China have emitted more CO2 since 2014 than we have since we came into being as a nation. Final quick thought on the show. Nuclear, pro or against?
I'm pro.
We're pro. Pro or against?
Very pro.
Yeah, and I think the public are as well, increasingly.
Yeah, I think we demonstrate to people that it's safe. The worry has been, is it safe? And I think we are now in a place where we can say we believe this is clean, safe technology.
Absolutely.
Of course we should have it.
And the Koreans do nuclear energy at 25% of the price that we do.
And these small little nuclear plants, they're the way forward.
The potential's amazing. My panel have been terrific. I've taken the mickey out of both of them. They've given a bit back to me as well. Coming up next is State of the Nation, tonight hosted by Christopher Hope. Christopher, what have you got coming up on the programme?
We've got Tony Blair's Institute defending ID cards. We expect the PM to announce them tomorrow. That'll be a massive, massive issue for years to come for all adults. We've got more in common about Andy Burnham's leadership campaign. And are museums racist, Nigel? What do you think? We'll find out. Our panel, of course, we've got Tessa Dunlop and Linda Dudley. Do stay tuned. It'll be a great show.
Well, it sounds like you're in for a very lively debate this evening, Chris, and I'm sure our viewers will stay glued to all of it. I want to say thank you very much. I've really enjoyed being here this week. I'm off tomorrow, off to Birmingham, back to my day job, I suppose you'd call me tomorrow. I'll be back with you next Tuesday evening. But what I want to know, as the weekend comes up, is please, can you tell us what does the all-important weather have in store?
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Looking ahead, it's set to be another dry day tomorrow, then a change over the weekend. It's likely we'll see some outbreaks of rain push in from the west. That's all due to low pressure moving its way in from the Atlantic as high pressure slips away off to the east. And as it does so, it does bring in a slight change in our wind direction, more south to southeasterly flow. So we'll see more cloud push into parts of East Anglia, Sussex and Kent. This may produce some showers, also some showers possible across Yorkshire and Lincolnshire. But elsewhere, mostly dry, plenty of clear skies. So it's likely we'll see some mist and fog once again during the morning. Also some isolated rural frost, but most towns and cities remaining in the mid to high single figures. Now, to start the day across Scotland, yes, it will be mostly dry, but it's going to be fairly gusty, particularly around western coasts. A chance of some coastal gales here. So it's unlikely to see any mist or fog during the morning, so mostly bright but breezy start, and fairly similar across Northern Ireland too. But across the rest of England and Wales, once again, it could be fairly chilly. Some mist and fog, particularly around any valleys. Not feeling quite as cold, though, across parts of the southeast. More cloud here. And as we progress through the course of the day, this cloud will spread its way further inland. So it's likely that sunshine will turn more hazy in nature, and once again this cloud could be thick enough to produce the odd isolated shower. But for most it should be another dry day, the best of the brightness across parts of the west, and not feeling quite as warm as it did this afternoon, highs reaching around 16 to 17 degrees Celsius in the southeast. Now, it's as we head into Saturday, we'll start to see this change. This frontal system pushing in from the west, at times bringing some quite persistent and heavy outbreaks of rain. At first into Northern Ireland and then pushing its way eastwards into western Scotland, western parts of England and Wales, where it could linger through much of the day. But most of the east should be mostly dry and bright. And then it looks like turning brighter as we head into next week. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Burnham Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 6